There we go.
Good evening, it's somewhere. I'm someone. And let's get started. Tonight on our show, a word from our sponsor, Raventail publisher, Bruce Bennett. Funny as hell, dedicated pop culture fantasy author, Randee Dawn. And as usual, our hosts, two guys who wandered in looking for directions to StokerCon, Charles Baruch and John Frater.
So, Randee, I hear you're about to become a world traveler.
I have been a world traveler. It's not like I've never left the country, but yes, my husband has recently retired from his job as a school teacher, and he has a nice pension, and we are going to go and do some big traveling for like months at a time instead of days or weeks at a time. So yes, very much looking forward to that.
That's terrific.
Where are you guys going?
Well, we're going to the World Fantasy Convention later this year. It's like the bridge between October and November. Then we're staying in the UK for a couple of months. But then we're coming back here to the US, and then we'll leave again, and sometime in 2026, and go to like Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and Hawaii. So yeah,
Cool.
We will be gone for a while.
That could be 6 months to a year of pure and utter awesomeness. It sounds awesome.
We're going to find out how long we want to stay away from home. You know what I mean? Like it's very different when you're going for that long a period of time than if you're just going for a con weekend or on a quick vacation, even for just a week.
Yeah.
I
lived in Japan for 2 years, and you realize after a certain point, you have to go out of the country just to hear your own language at some point, because even if you're functionally bilingual, and I was at least while I was there, I had to go and buy English books, listen to English television, just listen to English recordings, because just to keep your mind centered, as it were.
Yeah, when you don't live in the same country when you're living in a country that doesn't speak English as a first language, it can be a little more alienating. I consider it to be like level 202 or 302 traveling, right? Like 101 is you go to England. That's the easy one. You kind of know how things operate more or less. But I spent 3 weeks in the Gambia, which is in West Africa, some years ago, and they all speak English, but they generally are speaking Wolof. And it was kind of, I felt even more like, I'm not from here. So yeah, Japan will be very interesting, but it's a place I've wanted to go for a very long time, and I love the food. So
yeah.
What about you, Bruce? Much of a traveler?
Not really. I've been out of the country. My wife and I went to Scotland for our 40th anniversary last year, and that's the first time I've traveled anywhere for a while, for about 5 years. I was very, very involved with wrapping up my own business before that, so I was spending a lot of time doing that, and didn't really have a lot of time to travel. Though my wife is also a teacher, and she recently retired, and we hope to get more travel in. But this summer we're more involved with my son's wedding, which is coming up in August.
Congratulations.
And we've been spending a lot of our time getting ready for that.
Congratulations.
The business you were wrapping up was medical research or medical equipment?
Yeah, I've been in the medical industry since 1989, and I've been on the provider side as well as the supplier side that entire time. But most recently, I was in a technical support industry, which supports point of care. And when I reached age 65, my company decided that was a good time for me to leave. And I didn't disagree with them. So, retired from that industry, and of course, spending more of my time with the publishing company, which I should have been spending a lot of time with before, but it seemed to be running well without me. And now I'm just trying to make myself useful.
Yeah. And Randee, I know a little bit about your background and career, but you can tell the audience all sorts of things about your writing before you were doing your writing.
Well, the fiction did come first, but I was a little too young to be earning a living on it. And technically, I'm still a little bit unable to earn a living on it. But in the meantime, I went to journalism school and ended up being an entertainment journalist for a lot of years. So I've written for outlets like Variety and the LA Times and the Today Show's website. I do everything from interviews to feature pieces. I don't do a whole lot of reviews, but a little bit of everything. They call them the lifestyle areas now. So I've done things that are not just straight up entertainment as well. I'm just a very nosy person, and I like talking to people, and I like talking to creative people. So that's always been a lot of fun. But I have to say, like, I've been doing it since college, and now that we're at the age where we're starting to retire, I'm thinking, yes, I know how to do this. This is interesting, but I really want to devote more of my time. Like Bruce is going to devote more of his time to publishing. I want to devote more of my time to my fiction. And now that I have 2 novels out and 2 more coming out, I think this is the time to do that.
And no more music video tower readings then?
Music video tower readings.
Tarot reading.
Tarot readings. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you've seen the Letters to Cleo video, have you?
You got to tell that story, because I have, but...
So when I lived in Boston before I moved to New York, which is where I am now. And when I did an interview with a local band called Letters to Cleo, and I think they had one of their songs featured in a popular movie in the 1990s. So some people may have heard of them, but they were one of these. I hate about you. There you go. Thank you. And they were like one of these great Boston bands. There's so many amazing Boston bands in the 90s that just didn't break through, but that were just wonderful. And it was great to cover that scene. But I did this interview with Letters to Cleo, and we became a little friendly. And they said, hey, we're filming this video for one of our songs called I See. And do you want to just, be one of the background actors? I mean, look, I work cheap. I didn't get paid for it. But they needed a bunch of people to be doing things in a restaurant, but not necessarily all just sitting around eating meals. So they came up with a couple of ideas, and they said, can you be like a tarot card reader? And I did have a pack of tarot cards, but I am in no way psychic. I just had them because that's one of the things you have around your house, I guess, when you're out of college. And I had enough flowy, skirty type things that I could wear. And they plunked me on a banquet table and right in front of a table. And I pretended like I was doing readings in the videos. And my favorite part of the whole thing was in between takes, because there's tons of downtime. Like, we filmed this 4-minute video, took an entire day to film, right? So there's a lot of downtime. And in between the takes, people would come over to the table and they'd be like, will you do a reading for me? I'm like, you do understand I'm not really a tarot card reader, but if you want, like, I had studied the layouts and I can kind of interpret and stuff. I'm like, I'll do that if you want. And so I did a couple of readings. People were like lining up to get their cards read. And so I would read based on what the cards said. And they were like, that's so interesting. That's so true. Oh my gosh. I mean, they were really getting something out of this. And I had pre-cleared myself as I can't say I was a fraud, because I wasn't even pretending to be a real tarot card reader. But so apparently these things are really just whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. And they got a lot out of it.
So you were able to fake it till you made it, but you made it immediately.
That's right. I made it immediately. But yeah, you can go on YouTube and look up Letters to Cleo, I See, as in S-E-E, not like the letters I see. And if you look real closely, there's a woman with really long blonde hair in a green shirt, I think. And I'm doing tarot cards. There's a couple of short scenes that I'm in.
Very, very cool. So since we talked about your tower readings, how about we do a reading? I know you've got some stuff you'd like to share with us from some of your writing.
Well, I guess let me ask you a question. Would you've pegged me as the funny writer, but I also write horror, and this is a HorrorWords podcast. So would you rather have something amusing, or would you rather have something that's more in the horror vein?
Let's have something more in the horror.
Okay. So I'm going to read from this book I pulled off my shelf. It is called Stories We Tell After Midnight, Volume 3. And my story, if you go to the table of contents, it'll say it is on page 41, but it's actually on page 45. So just be aware of that. And the story, it actually has the title is named after a band from the 90s called Jimmy Eat World. And I took that title and decided to take it a little more literally. So this is Jimmy Eat World. I'm just going to start at the beginning. Little James Manduco was 3 years old the first time he bit off an owl's head. He stuck the round bulb deep into his maw, enclosing it with his baby teeth. He'd been born with a full set of 32 gleaming choppers, and clamped down. The ensuing crunch made his skull vibrate. His blue eyes went wide as the shards of what had once been Mama's favorite knick-knack scattered across his pulsing pink tongue. Then he chewed. As it turned out, porcelain tasted of spiced earth, the sandy grittiness scattering around his cheeks as he ground down on the sharp shards. He had no words to describe it yet, but his taste buds knew. The polished, glazed interior of the owl figurine contrasted beautifully with its rough interior, and the contrast made him moan with bliss. Cramming more of the owl into his mighty jaw, Jimmy delighted as the masticated grit lingered between his gums and back molars. He'd been born with those too, a configuration that distorted the lower half of his face and made it disproportionately large. As he chewed, quick flashes burst in his mind like fireworks. A mildew-scented antique store where Mama collected the owl. A brilliant yellow sunlight flashing on the figurine on a windowsill in a different home than his. A glass box surrounding it in a department store. Intense heat from a firing kiln, then down to its component parts of kaolinite, feldspar, bone clay, alabaster. The retrograde history of a ruined figurine, now part of Jimmy himself. He swallowed and took another bite. No, Jimmy! Mama dashed into the living room, cigarette dangling from one corner of her mouth, jeans smudged with garden dirt. Oh, what did you do? She snatched the surviving portion of the knick-knack from his fist and prized open his mouth. Spotting saliva-coated bits of ceramic as yet unswallowed, she tried scraping them out with a finger. You'll choke! Jimmy bit her. Not a figurine decapitating chomp, just a small snap, a warning. Mama's finger wrapped into a fist that itself curled against her chest. Jimmy? He thrust his hands at her, grasping for the owl. He wanted to finish it. He was, and this was a strange sensation for the boy, hungry. For the first time. A gnawing, angry sensation in his gut told him what he'd just consumed was exactly what he needed, and he needed more of it. Mama, he cried. Mama, eat! Mama opened her fist to reveal the headless owl. Tears welled in her eyes. Her son's stick-like fingers waggled at her like worms. He was bouncing up and down on his rear end and clearly heading toward a temper tantrum. So she gave him the rest of the owl. It was delicious. And I will pause there because that's a good break in the story. Thank you very much.
I remember beta reading that for you. It's a very good story indeed.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that you had beta read for that. I forgot that. Yes, you gave me some great feedback.
Hold up the book cover.
Okay. There's the book. Stories We Tell After Midnight, Volume 3. There's actually 4 volumes. I have another story in Volume 4, which is called Dark Spores and is all about funguses and mushrooms and stories like that. It's also another domestic story in a way, but different. So yeah, there's 4 of these volumes, and they're all worth checking out. Lots of different horrifying short stories.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Cool.
So, Bruce, you want to tell us a little bit of some of the authors you publish?
Well, yeah, I do. Thank you. Well, the publishing company, Raventail Publishing, is a venture of my original publishing company, Onco Publishing. And we, when I say we, Nick Whale, who is now the premier promoter in Western books anywhere internationally, and I started up a Western publishing company in 2016 called Dusty Saddle Publishing. And we really started up on a $140 investment, and today it's one of the top 10 Western publishing companies being published by Amazon. Mostly because of Nick, and once again, I like to say how talented he is in bringing books to the market and selling them well. And a lot of our authors started as people who just wanted to write, and are now recognized as being some of the top Western authors in the industry. And really, we looked at another area. I don't know if it was boredom or if we really needed to diversify, but we looked at horror as being an area we'd like to get into, just because it was a highly niched area, and there was a lot of authors out there who are writing independently, which is good for us because we look for independent authors who are struggling to get their books supported and read. And we come alongside of those authors and we support them. We publish their work, their books, we market. We do all the things that a really good publishing company would do in the hopes that Raventail will eventually be as large as our other publishing company, Dusty Saddle Publishing. But, we started with some good, very good talent. I think very good. I edit a great number of the books that come in. And we have of course Dan Durkee now, who has 3 books in the top 100 in Western horror, and really has done very well for us. Michael Cole, who most people know, is with us, and each book that comes out does better than the next. He's really a tremendous writer, and we're proud to have him aboard. Of course, Charles. Just wanted to mention that you're with us, and your books are available through Raventail Publishing. And if someone wants to go and purchase a book from Raventail and doesn't remember anything we said in this meeting, they can go on to Amazon and just put Raventail Publishing into the inquiry line, and they will get our books. They will get our books to come up. And right now we have probably about 14 authors that we're working with, and all of them have done fairly well. We look to, continue to do that and continue to build a even more robust business over the next year or so. We have very aggressive plans, and I think that we're seeing a lot of the early plans that we have come to fruition.
I'm very glad to hear that John's wife Lara is also one of your authors.
Yes, I know that, but I was trying to limit the sucking up to one person there.
It's not sucking up. It's promotion. It's
Promotion.
Journalism. That's all it is.
Yes,
Okay.
John is also one of our authors, and I must tell you that what I've read so far, and I read each one with a very scrutinizing eye. What I've read and edited so far, everything we have is very, very good. It's worth reading. It's really exciting stuff. A lot of very, very new ideas and perspectives of horror that we don't get in a lot of the traditional things. And of course, horror is always evolving. It's a changing, genre. And if you don't change or you don't come up with something new, you sort of fade into the background. And I see everybody looking for new angles, new ideas, just really grabbers that haven't been used before. And, a lot of that is cliche, everything, I guess a lot of people would say everything that's going to be done has been done. I don't think that's true at all. I think there's a lot of shockers out there that are still waiting to be seen. And we really enjoy the horror genre. And I know that we've gotten many, many responses back from readers for more of a lot of our authors' works, and congratulating us on finding some really, really great angles to use in new ideas in horror.
So let me ask you, Randee, what brought you to horror? What got you interested in it?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm out, right? Or someone else is it?
No, that's okay. He said me,
Sorry
but if you
to
want
talk
to answer the question, I don't have a problem with that.
I really don't like to talk. I'm doing my best just to answer questions.
What got me into horror? I really like the stories that I see in horror. I'm not so much into the really gruesome stuff, but horror stories, I think if I had to point to anything, I would probably say Stephen King, right? I mean, Stephen King is, he brought a lot of us into it. And I really like this when there's a solid story, but with solid characters, and it makes me feel something. I'm really not a literary fiction fan. I'm not, that doesn't respond for me. And not that you can't have literary horror, but I really feel like horror is just kind of this elemental thing that I really respond to. And I really feel like I'm getting a good plot or a good story out of it. And in terms of trying to write it, it's funny because you mentioned that I do funny writing. Also, I feel like they're not necessarily opposite ends of the spectrum, but they allow you to sort of keep pushing the envelope and push the envelope. And every time I write either a funny story or a horror story, I go back to in the subsequent drafts and think, how can I push this a little harder? Horror allows me to, write about things that I would never be able to write about anywhere else. The fact that I write funny stuff, the fact that I, don't quote unquote look like a horror writer, whatever that's supposed to mean, I think is hilarious because that sort of prods me to write even darker stuff. I mean, the Jimmy Eat World story is dark, but there's another story that I wrote for a book called it's behind me, so I'm going to look. The title is right behind me. Even in the Grave. That's what it is. Even in the Grave. And the stuff that I put in the end of that story, I'm just like, wow, somebody's going to really hate me for writing this. And I haven't gotten that kind of feedback. As far as I know, people think it's a good story. So I really feel like I can just push the envelope and write stuff that's not going to appear anywhere else in my other fiction. Whereas when I'm writing funny stuff, I try to push it a little bit further also to make it even funnier or more bizarre or more sort of unexpectedly hilarious. And both of these areas really, that they cover my interests for sure. But I also like reading horror too.
Now, since we were talking about the things Bruce is doing to promote authors, we should talk a little bit about Barrows and Ample Hills. Oh
yeah, sure. So I run a reading series called Brooklyn Books and Booze. And it's based out of a place called Barrows Intense Ginger Tasting Room, which is an industry city in Brooklyn. And once a month, we have 4 authors who come in and they read for about 20 or 25 minutes. They sell their books. You get to meet them. And we have a pretty eclectic collection. It tends to be speculative fiction, but we do fantasy, horror, science fiction, some mystery. We've had a whole collection of people. Once we even had a musician who came in, a guy who sang funny songs. So as the curator and both curator and MC, I kind of get to pick whoever I want to put in there. But before it was at Barrows, it started out at an ice cream store called Ample Hills. And this particular branch of Ample Hills, there's several of them across Brooklyn and New York City. This particular one had a rooftop inside and outside section where they could have parties and events. And so when the weather wasn't great, we could have a reading on the inside, but up on the roof. And then when it was really nice, having these readings outside on the roof were amazing. Because we would start before it got fully dark and then it would get slowly dark around us. And it was just a wonderful atmosphere. But Ample Hills had some financial problems and sort of abruptly shuttered right before we were supposed to do a reading a couple of years ago. And we scrambled and found Barrows, and they've been terrific to us. And they even do like a specialty drink once a month that times in with the reading and some of the authors and all of that. So if you are interested in possibly joining us, or reading with us, we are at brooklynbooksbooze.com. And there's a section on there where as an author, you can fill it out. Or if you just want to come and see us, it's every 3rd Tuesday. We literally had our last reading last night. And the next one will be August 19th, I believe. So that's been a lot of fun putting that together.
Strictly from my own curiosity, your funny songwriter wasn't Jonathan Colton, was it?
Oh, I would have loved that. I think Jonathan can fill a bigger room than Barrows can hold.
So. He's the only Brooklyn-based guy I can think of off the top of my head.
So if you haven't heard of Rob Paravonian before,
okay.
He's terrific. He does a lot of funny songs. He works clean. But he did have a little bit of viral success a bunch of years ago with something called the Pachelbel Rant. How as a musician, there's this chord that's from Pachelbel, one of Pachelbel's songs, and it's used so much throughout pop music. So he's sitting there playing his guitar, and I'm like, this drives me crazy because every time I hear these songs, all I can hear is the same chord progression again. And it's actually very funny. So you can find that on YouTube. You can find a lot of Rob Paravonian stuff all over YouTube. One of my favorite songs of his is, and he did a real video for it, which is a lot of fun, is it's called, I think it's just called The G Train, actually. And it's all about taking this terrible line this terrible subway line that connects Queens and Brooklyn called the G train, because the G train is like super unreliable. It doesn't have very many cars. It doesn't come very frequently. But, you know, as with many things in New York, the things that are the quirkiest, even if they don't work properly, are the things you come to love the most. So this is kind of an admiration song to the G train. We were doing a reading that included amusing stories or funny stories. So we had Esther Friesner there, who's done a lot of funny writing, and Aaron Rosenberg, who has also written some funny stories. And we had Rob. So that was actually a really great evening. I had a theme, and I'm like, oh, this is great. I can now bring Rob in, because he doesn't do speculative fiction per se, but he does do funny stuff. So that was a lot of fun, and he was great.
So what happens to Barrows when you're gallivanting around the world?
I have a wonderful substitute host named Amy Goldschlager. She works outside of the industry. She doesn't actually write, but she often does reviews. And she comes to like pretty much every single reading every single reading series that I ever do. And she knows how to do this. She has done it for when they had the readings with the New York science fiction reading group that Jim Freund used to run. She would go to those, and sometimes she stood in for Jim Freund. So she's done this before. She knows how to be an MC, and she loves doing it almost as much as I do. So she'll be stepping in for later this year when we're away, and she'll step in when I'm away next year. And I know I can rely on her to put on a good show as well.
Yeah, I just saw her at Shade Bar when we were doing the most recent HWA reading.
Yep, she's like one of the industry's kind of big supporters. She goes to as many readings as possible, and I love that. I love that we have that kind of support from her.
It's terrific stuff. So, what do you have coming up?
Me? So tomorrow I'm leaving for a convention just outside of Boston called ReaderCon, and I have a bunch of panels that I'm doing there. I'm doing a reading. There's a party that happens in the con suite called House of Toast. And these House of Toast people come and make toast with all sorts of toppings for people just for free. And they're letting me do a little promotion. So if you get the toast that is tied into one of my books, you get a special prize. And then what else am I doing while I'm there? ReaderCon is terrific. And then after ReaderCon, a couple weeks later, I go to WorldCon, which is in Seattle, and that's the place where they give out the Hugo Awards. Not that I'm nominated or getting one, but that is the place for those who may not recognize it. And then after Seattle, after a short time, I've got a convention in Texas called Armadillo Con, and I'm doing some small readings around the city. The Shade Bar is having a horror reading at the beginning of August that I'm going to also. And then we head off to Europe, and the World Fantasy this year at the end of October is in Brighton in the UK. So I'm going there, and that will be my last con for the year. There's a lot of cons this year.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you taking the time out for us. I know you've had a very busy schedule going.
Oh yeah, no, I love doing this kind of stuff if I can fit it in.
So Bruce, you were telling us about a bunch of the different authors. Are you still writing, or are you just editing and publishing now?
Well, I wrote since I was in the horror genre, I decided I would try my hand at it. So I did write a story called The Zixon, and I enjoy it. I don't know if anybody else liked it, but I'm really more concentrating on the authors that we have and their work. I find a few, I'm not going to say who, but I find a few of them very fascinating, and I think their work should be, really, I really want to focus on it becoming successful. I want a lot of people to read it. In fact, we came out today that the people who run the publishing company, we want to put together a community group for horror, but online, of course, and surrounding Raventail, like a Raventail community, where all we're really interested in is someone coming in and giving us their email, but then being a part of the horror community. We have a really great giveaway. We have the Raven's Eye giveaway, so we're giving away a red diamond to somebody on the 28th of August who signs up between now and then. We're going to be featuring, we're going to be giving out the information on what books are coming out first to these folks and allowing them to have a preview of what we're going to be publishing. We're looking to get reviews of those books back from our community. We're offering other types of specials for events and really tangible things that you can get from being part of the Raventail horror community group. And we're going to be promoting that pretty heavily. We're going to put a lot of resources behind that, monetary and otherwise, because we feel like there's not enough folks that know about our authors. There's not enough folks that know Raventail is now in the arena, and we want to make that change right away. So we're going to be putting in a big push doing that. Mostly, what we're looking to do is take those people who really I talked about earlier and get their books read, because if no one's reading your book, you could be the best author in the world, and it's not going to make a difference. So we find that our folks put a lot of time and effort into their work. I can tell they do because, once again, I edit a lot of them and I read pretty much all of them that come in. And I can tell that this is not just something that, came out of the blue. It's something that required a lot of research, a lot of thought. And when the book finally comes onto the market, I want people to read it. And that's, where I'm at. And like I said, my goal is to be as large as our Western publisher. We want to be number one in the industry in horror. And, I don't think there's any barriers that will keep us from doing that.
It's very exciting stuff. Please make sure we have links for how to get involved with that new community. Because we want to include Randee's links, we want to include your links, we want to make sure that all that stuff's available at the podcast when it goes out.
Yeah, I didn't exactly hear what you said, but I know that...
send us your stuff. Send us your links. Send us a way we can make the world know what Raventail is doing.
I will, for sure. I have to thank you both, especially Charles, who's given me, invaluable amounts of information about the industry. And we've been doing everything that Charles has suggested. So, once again, it's a two-way street. If you're out there and you like what we're doing and you want us to be more successful, we're wide open to anything that, is going on that may help our authors to sell more books. And, we're not one of those people that are saying, we're not going to accept your work, or we're not going to be open to listening. We just want to tell you what to do. That's not true. And Charles will tell you that. We're wide open. Our ears are open, and we want to know what's going on, and how to make our business better.
I've very much been enjoying those conversations. Okay, any last words, John? Anything you want to tell the world today?
I want to tell the world that if you're listening to this, you are alive, and thus everything you want to do is possible. So do it. Don't wait, because you may not be here tomorrow. You probably will, but you might not. Think about that, why don't you?
John is the cheerful one.
Actually, I have an email to send to Bruce after we cut up from this, so don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It's all fine. We're all fine here. We're good.
We all might die tomorrow. By the way, Bruce, you're getting an email. That's really an interesting ending note right there, John.
Yeah, if you don't get a response back from it, you might know what happened.
Oh, well. I figure I could die, or you could die, or we could both die, or we could both be alive, in which case you read the email and see what happens.
This is not really a conversation I'm ready to have. I'm ready to live my life, and as Randee said, travel and do things that are really lots of fun. It's a great time for me. I'm just recently retired, and of course the publishing company is my is my first love. So it's going to get done for the publishing company first, but I guarantee you that I'm going to have some fun with my life, and I'm going to enjoy the next few years of retirement.
Well, I
Very,
can tell
very
you
good.
this, watching Lara work on the books that she's been working on for you guys, she's been um Lara's well, let me put it this way. She won the Sick and Twisted Writing Award in college, and we were all very, very proud of her for that. And I've seen her work on her stuff, the amount of fun she has had working on the latest round she's done for you has been thrilling to watch. They're really good books. They're really fun stories, and she's having a load of fun writing them and thinking of new and different things to do with horror. So thank you for the opportunity you've given her, if nothing else.
We're real proud to have her with us. Real happy. Like you said, her books are very, very good. They're worth reading. And I like the twist that she has on her writing. And I think whoever's listening, go out and try one of those books. Those are very, very good.
Yeah. So we'll have all those links below, but now it's time to draw this to a close. So Danny, oh Danny, Danny, there we go. Hello everybody, this is HorrorWords Podcast host Charles Baruch with a little bit of news from our sponsor, that if you join their mailing list between now and August 28th, you will be entered into a drawing to win the Raven's Eye, an actual gem. You can join by going to horrorwords.com/RT. Hope to see you on the mailing list.
And that's our show. There are links below for Bruce Bennett, Randee Dawn, as well as our hosts, Charles Baruch and John Frater. Upcoming guests will include Caitlin Kenna, Pamela Jeffs, James Ryan, and others we can't mention just yet. If you are horror adjacent in books, film, streaming, and would like to be on the HorrorWords podcast, email drownedrat@horrorwords.com. We would like to thank our sponsor, Raventail Publishing. Good night. Caitlin Kenna, Pamela Jeffs, James Ryan,